Mambo, Mambo Italiano, Mambo, Mambo Italiano. Kitty Cat isn't happy talking about a bunch of elderly people in Italiano, in and out, in out Italiano. Mama, Mambo Italiano, let's go. Hey, Mamba. Okay. Book Club. The next chapter was written and directed by Bill Holderman, who did The Book Club. By the way, Book Club, not The Book Club. There's no official title. It's Book Club, just singular. That's it. That's it. And if you haven't seen Book Club, you're going to have no goddamn idea what's going on in this movie because it's a direct sequel to Book Club that came out in 2018 that I recently reviewed. It's on Paramount Plus and decided, hell, why not? I'll give it a shot. It's also written by Aaron Sims, who did Book Club. So pretty much it's everybody reuniting. I mean, literally, it's everybody reuniting. You have Vivian, Jane Fonda, you have Carol, Mary Steenburgen, and you have Diane, played by Diane Keaton. You want to talk about typecasting right there? See, even the producer's upset by the fact that Diane Keaton wasn't given a more original name. So nevertheless, basically what you end up having is more elderly people in this. You have Andy Garcia, who plays Mitchell, not to be confused with Joe Don Baker's character from the MST3K show. Arthur, played by Don Johnson. You have Sharon, Candice Bergen, who is a delight in this. Candice Bergen is just fucking fabulous in this. She's so goddamn great. And Bruce, played by Craig T. Nelson, who really is moving and talking like one of those bodies that they took the tombstone away from, but never moved the body. So yeah, elderly jokes abound. So Book Club. Quick recap of Book Club. Basically, it was 4 lifelong women, or lifelong friends that are women, that wanted to spice up things in their life, and they read 50 Shades of Grey, and then I assume other books in the series. Yes, believe it or not, 50 Shades of Grey had multiple books. Christ knows why. Christ knows why those movies are made. Except Dakota Johnson getting involved in bondage. I'd watch, except I won't watch those movies. No, I will not retro-review or review those movies. No. Everybody stop asking me. People have actually asked me if I would watch those. I don't know why. Anyway, nevertheless, basically, in this movie, you have the friends reuniting and even plays in the pandemic happening because the first one happened in 2018. And from the events of that one and how that one ended, we move forward where we actually have a funny opener with the Zoom call. And Diane Keaton not being able to understand technology. I do believe that. That was kind of funny. All these women being, some of these women having smartphones and being involved with, understanding technology actually is rather funny to me. I don't know why, just that stereotype of elderly people being unable to figure out things and having to get youthful people to understand their technology and all that stuff and everything. And I don't even understand smartphones. I'm 42 years old and have only had 10 years of my life. So the events continue where now Vivian, played by Jane Fonda, is going to get married after basically parading around with a bunch of guys and never really settling down. She decides she's going to get married to the guy that she ended up hooking up with. That was a guy she loved earlier on in her life, Arthur, played by Don Johnson. And from there, they decide they're going to get married, and then everybody pairs together because the pandemic's over now and everything, and Candice Bergen's being a goddamn delight, and Mary Steenburgen is dealing with the fact that Craig T. Nelson, her husband Bruce, had a health issue, had a health scare, so now she's really worried about him, and Diane Keaton still suffering the after effects of her late husband, but she's hooked up with Mitchell, Andy Garcia. Met him during the course of the first movie. Actually a great great montage with and a great part with Andy Garcia flying Diane Keaton to Late in the Evening by Paul Simon. Paul Simon makes great music. Whatever happened to Paul Simon? I wish Paul Simon was still making music, but nevertheless he left quite a catalog. So they decide we're going to celebrate Vivian's engagement by taking a bachelor party. Well, her impending marriage, we're going to take a bachelor party and a trip all the way to Italy because they saw a book where they wrote it where they were like in college or just out of college or something where they said, we never got to do this. Who knows if we're going to get a chance to do it again. And then through a series of circumstances, everybody comes together. There was one funny line that is in the trailer. Candice Bergen calls Vivian and says, you're in a church, looking in a church to get married. I'm surprised you didn't burst into flames when you cross the threshold. Candice Bergen don't give a fuck. She don't give a fuck. She just don't give a fuck at all. Speaking of not giving a fuck, I'm going to bring the producer back on here to talk about the rest of this plot. Oh, you come over here. So, anyway, they take a trip to Italy, and you like Italian movies. You like Italian settings. You've seen some stuff with Italian settings. Don't act like you haven't. I feed you, and I only give you attention like this when I want to please the viewers. Hi. Okay, so anyway, nevertheless, basically what ends up happening is after you get the producer's tale here, you essentially have them going through a series of events and, hilarity in Italy. You have the men loving the fact that they're beautiful women. And I mean, look, everybody has their personal preferences, like kind of like these elderly women being over in Italy. And sure, okay, the movie is rather, I guess you could say, trite with its cliches and its basic plot, because there really isn't much of a plot to it, even though there's some nice little romantic stuff and everything, and some nice little endearing, and yes, endearing. I'm going to use the word endearing, because this movie was endearing. I was endeared. Listen to how endeared I was. The producer isn't endeared. He's very unendeared. He is going to probably end me right after this review is posted. But nevertheless, basically, this is endearing. This is incredibly endearing. Beautiful Italian setting, I do have to say. There are a lot of plot conveniences that you can see coming from a mile away, and a lot of, storyline, or, weaves in the storyline. But it's all endearing and it's all well acted. The star power absolutely helps. I would chalk this up to being just like the remake of Father of the Bride, the remake of the remake of the remake of Father of the Bride with Andy Garcia. Hey, Andy Garcia makes an appearance again like he does here, and Gloria Estefan. I still would. Nevertheless, everybody has their own insecurities. All these friends, they have their certain reasons for why they wanted to do this trip, but also others that weren't sure they wanted to do it. And it all ends up being a very romantic and friendship, endearing and power friendship deal, and it was good. It was good. Perhaps even very good, because I had a great time. By the way, in case you're wondering why I'm posting this before the review, or before the movie is technically out, there was a special screening at a theater just up the road, just in the next city south, and it's the same theater I watched the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, the sneak peek. And this was good. Beautiful Italian settings, hilarity, and sure, trite stuff, but you know what? It had just that air of syrupy sweetness where you almost pass out from being in a sugar coma. But my God, it was fun. I had fun. Listen to how much fun I had. In all seriousness, it was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed the first book club, just say this is more of that, because it is more of that. I would argue this is a little bit better because the characters are a little bit older, including the actors, and taking it away from just having the book club thing, implementing the fact that this may be their last ride, and they could do another one. They almost implied that they might, and they could. They need to hurry quick. I don't know if they can wait another 5 years, because none of these actors are getting any younger, especially Jane Fonda, who was born in 1937, by the way. See, when everybody was in school, they didn't have history. Their social security number is 1. I mean, good God, they remember when the Alamo actually happened. So nevertheless, the movie's fun. I will get into spoilers, but if you like first book club, you're going to enjoy this. So there you go. Meanwhile, while the producer continues to complain, I will say, check it out in theaters, or you can wait for streaming, whatever. But let's see how this one does. It was better than the first one, in my opinion, even though the first one was quite endearing. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay, so Carol was worried because of Bruce's health. He had a heart issue. because of the pandemic, her restaurant shut down. She also mentions during this whole thing about planning to go to Italy that there was this guy she wrote about in her like diary type thing about his big meatballs, and there's a lot of funny jokes about that and really, really good. It's really enjoyable, very enjoyable. He doesn't like big meatballs. He wants more chicken. He will get more chicken once this review is done, sir. You will get more. But basically what ends up happening with that is Carol, of course, meets her, this ex-lover that she had years and years ago while she's on the trip to Italy. And Vivian's like, yeah, let's go over there and everything. Let's do this. But I don't want to be away from Arthur. But she second-guessed because she's always been a bachelor. She's always been a woman that's been in relationships but never been married. And she always feels that marriage is a way to tie down. Diane Keaton's character, still missing her late husband, wants to honor him, takes the urn with her to Italy. By the way, illegal. You can't do that. And you have Candace Bergen's character, Sharon, had to check my notes again for that, who just frolics around with like one guy. There's one funny scene. She meets a guy, very, very nice gentleman, and they're on his boat, and this police chief shows up and says, what are you doing? And she peeks out, that would be me. And it's funny, because elderly people boning, it's funny. There's a lot of good stuff to this. There is. It is all rather effective and rather endearing, and yeah, they do end up losing their luggage because they give it to some porters, I believe, guys that were just posing as people to take advantage of tourists and take advantage of other people. And somehow the urn gets recovered. I don't quite understand all that, but they end up doing dress shopping before that. The dress is intact, don't worry. Diane Keaton gets picks out an outfit, so to speak, but it's like, I can't do that. And then Andy Garcia, he gets wind of this because Carol posts stuff to social media since she's the youngest out of everybody in the goddamn girl group. And we get a surprise later. Candace Bergen, all this. It's funny. It's meant to be funny. It's meant to be endearing. It's just a whole lot of fun. I'm not really going to get too much else into the spoilers, except I will say that the big old surprise is that the other three had planned all this with Arthur, and that they were trying to get to Tuscany after taking a trip to Rome and Venice and all that. They were planning to surprise her with a surprise wedding in Italy, where Don Johnson was going to take his Miami Vice skills and bring him over there. And then that ended up not going all that well because they had a flat tire. And then a police officer came along, and Vivian thought he was a stripper because he was a very good-looking Italian man. Boy, howdy was he ever. You agree, sir. Don't act like you don't. And they end up getting thrown in jail because they said they were hitchhiking. Well, I guess apparently hitchhiking is illegal in Italy, and they get thrown in. And then there lots of drinking, lots of wine, lots of stuff like this. Before this, Carol actually does meet the guy that she hooked up with before, the Italian guy who owns his own restaurant. They talk about food. There's this implication that maybe they're doing it. No, they're just beating dough, and she's playing with his dough and all that stuff and everything. In a van, playing with dough and all that, and they're just flirting and having fun and everything. But nothing goes far because Carol is a faithful wife, and that's good. And then everybody ends up coming together, literally, because Bruce earlier had said, hey, why don't I come over? Well, no, that's okay, you don't need to. And then he was like talking to her, and she's like, sorry, all this kind of stuff. I saw the posts, and no, don't worry, it'll be different. We shouldn't stop living our lives. I'm going to make sure I treat you well. And then he's like, well, the thing is, and he says these flowers, there's like, there's one, there's these flowers are beautiful. And he was there. And Andy Garcia was there. It surprised Diane Keaton with the outfit. And Candace Bergen ends up presiding over the thing because of the fact the priest vanishes. And she's a judge. By the way, she was a judge. Here comes a judge. Here comes a judge. She was there. She was a judge there before, or judge in the first movie, and then she retired, but she still has the power to marry people. Then she ends up marrying Vivian and Arthur in a really funny thing where he knew she wanted to get married, but they want to be together. I pronounce you not husband and not wife. And then Andy Garcia gets a ring from Don Johnson, which didn't sound nearly as weird in my head, but let's just roll with it. Let's just roll with that fanfic. Make fanfic. I don't care. Why not? He ends up marrying Diane Keaton, and it's great. It's good stuff. It's really, really incredible. By the way, a little bit before this, Diane Keaton ended up dumping her late husband's ashes while the thing fell and collided hit the thing to loosen the lid, and then the helicopter, because the police chief that took their information for their bags and then ended up having them arrested said, it's okay, I'll take you here. We'll just do this. I'll just commandeer this police helicopter because I can, and we'll just go there. Because why not? Because romantic comedy, endearment. You don't have to put logic to it when you have this star power and this level of endearment again. And then everybody gets married, everybody's happy. They imply that maybe they will do this again. Maybe not get married again, that would be a bit weird. It would kind of nullify all the goodwill that this movie built, but they may do another one. I don't know what they'll be doing. Again, maybe don't wait 5 years. B+. It gets a B+. Is it perfect? No. If you try to dissect any of it, it gets ridiculous. But nevertheless, B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. The producer's over there. Upset at me. Don't even want to look. God, he's looking right at me. I'll see you soon.